Most people spend their whole lives measuring their financial success by two numbers: how much they earn and how much they're worth on paper. Nobody taught them there's a third number, and that third number is the only one that actually determines whether they are free. 40% of Americans earning over $300,000 a year say they are living paycheck to paycheck. 4 in 10. People earning more than 6 times the national median income, and they cannot absorb a missed direct deposit without something breaking. All right. NFL players earn an average of $3.3 million per year during their career. 16% of them file for bankruptcy within 12 years of retiring. Players who earned more money in 5 years than most people earn in a lifetime, and most of it was gone within a decade of their last game. Doctors and lawyers, some of the most educated, highest earning professionals in America, are statistically among the worst at building durable financial security. Physicians often carry $300,000 in student debt. Start earning real money at 30 and spend the next decade making expensive financial mistakes they were never taught to avoid. The pattern has a single explanation. There are two ways to look at your financial life. The first way is the one you were taught. Income comes in, expenses go out. Whatever is left, you save or spend. You measure success by how much you earn and, over time, how much you've accumulated, your net worth. All right? That framework is not wrong. It is just incomplete, because there is a second lens, one that changes how you see every financial decision, and most people never encounter it. The difference between the two lenses is the difference between a snapshot and a movie. Net worth is a snapshot. This is what I own minus what I owe at this moment. Cash flow is a movie. This is how money is actually moving through my life right now, this month. A company's accountants have known this distinction for a long time. Since 1987, U.S. companies have been legally required to publish a cash flow statement alongside their balance sheet, because a company can look profitable on paper and still go bankrupt if its actual money movement is wrong. The balance sheet tells you what the company owns. The cash flow statement tells you whether the company is actually working. Your personal finances work the same way. Your net worth is your personal balance sheet. Your monthly income minus your monthly expenses is your personal cash flow statement. And the question that separates the financially free from the financially trapped is not which number is bigger. It is this: where is the cash flow coming from? There are two kinds of income: labor income and asset income. Labor income is the money you earn by showing up. Your salary, your hourly wage, your freelance fee, the check you get for working. It is real money, important money, but it has one critical limitation: it requires you. The moment you stop working, it stops arriving. Asset income is the money generated by things you own. Rent from a property, dividends from stocks, distributions from a business, interest from a bond. This money does not require you to be present. It moves whether you are working or sleeping, healthy or sick, in the office or on vacation. The wealthy do not earn income the way you earn it. They build systems, companies, real estate portfolios, investment holdings that generate income without requiring their time. Their labor income may be modest or near zero. Their asset income covers everything. Okay, here is a number that illustrates this. Robert Kiyosaki, whose book Rich Dad, Poor Dad became the best-selling personal finance book in history, defined wealth using a concept from Buckminster Fuller. He asked a simple question: if you stopped working today, how many days could you survive on what you own? 1 week, 1 year, 10 years, forever? That is the wealth question. And the answer depends entirely on one thing: whether you have built assets that generate income without you. So why do so many smart, hardworking, high-earning people never build that kind of wealth? There are two traps, and almost everyone falls into both of them. The first trap is locked net worth, okay? Most middle-class Americans hold their wealth in two containers: home equity and retirement accounts. Your house goes up in value over time. Your net worth grows. Your 401k grows. Your net worth grows. On paper, you look successful. But here is the problem. You cannot pay your electric bill with home equity. You cannot buy groceries with your 401k before age 59 and a half without a penalty. These assets are real. They have genuine value, but they are inaccessible. They exist as a number on a statement, not as money you can actually use. The average middle-class household approaching retirement has about $186,000 in savings and about $177,000 in home equity. That looks like a solid net worth. But how much income does that generate each month? Almost nothing. The home costs money to maintain. The savings generate modest interest. The retirement accounts sit locked until a specific age. Net worth on paper is not the same as a working system. The second trap is the Diderot spiral. In the 1700s, French philosopher Denis Diderot received a beautiful scarlet dressing gown as a gift. He loved it. Then he looked at his furniture and suddenly his furniture looked shabby. So he replaced the furniture, then the curtains looked wrong, then the rugs, then the writing desk. Within months, he had spent himself into debt, replacing everything that no longer matched the new standard the dressing gown had set. Yeah, Diderot accidentally described something economists have been trying to explain ever since. When income rises, the standard of living rises to match it. The bigger paycheck triggers a bigger apartment. The promotion triggers a nicer car. The new job title triggers the school district, the wardrobe, the restaurant budget. Spending expands to fill available income, not out of weakness, but out of a psychological pull that is almost impossible to resist without explicitly understanding what it is doing. The result is that a person can earn $300,000 a year, feel financially stable, and have almost nothing actually working for them. Their cash flow is consumed before it can be converted into assets. Check this out. This trap is not new. It is as old as work itself. In the late 1800s, coal companies in Appalachia discovered a remarkably efficient way to solve a problem. They needed workers in remote mountain territories, and they needed to keep them there. So they built company towns, entire communities owned by the company, and they paid their workers not in dollars, but in scrip. Scrip was a token or paper note redeemable only at the company store. You could not take it to a bank. You could not spend it in town. It existed entirely within the company's ecosystem. New workers were charged for their transportation to the coal fields, their tools, their housing, and their first week of food before they earned a single cent. The company store charged prices 15 to 50% higher than the open market. The scrip advances came with interest deducted from future wages. The result was a system where no matter how hard a miner worked, almost nothing accumulated. Income came in and debt consumed it before it could become assets. The cash flow trap was explicit, architectural, and essentially inescapable. Congress made scrip illegal in 1938 under the Fair Labor Standards Act. All right. But the economic mechanic did not disappear. It evolved. Today, no one issues scrip. The trap operates through lifestyle inflation, consumer debt, subscription spending, and the absence of financial education. The mechanism is less visible. The outcome is largely the same. The average American household in 2024 earned about $104,000 before taxes and spent about $78,500 After taxes, that surplus margin narrows considerably. 27% of adults had zero emergency savings. The system is not designed to trap anyone, but it does not need to be. The consumption economy simply does what it has always done: offer things to spend money on and let human psychology do the rest. The people who build genuine financial freedom are not necessarily higher earners. They are people who understand the relationship between net worth and cash flow and who deliberately structure their net worth to generate income. The math is surprisingly specific. In 1994, a financial planner named William Bengen studied retirement portfolios going back to 1926 and made a discovery. A portfolio invested in a diversified mix of stocks and bonds could sustain annual withdrawals of 4% indefinitely through every major economic downturn in American history without running out. Okay, this became the 4% rule, and it is the clearest translation of net worth into cash flow that personal finance has ever produced. If you need $40,000 a year to live, you need $1 million in invested assets. If you need $80,000 a year, you need $2 million. The calculation runs in both directions. Given a target net worth, you know exactly how much income it generates. Given a target income, you know exactly how much net worth is required. What this means in practice is that financial freedom is not a vague aspiration. It is a number, a specific, calculable, achievable number that converts net worth into cash flow. And once that cash flow exceeds what your life costs, your labor income becomes optional. That is financial independence. And it is built not by earning more, but by structuring what you earn into assets that generate income. All right, let me be direct about what those assets actually look like. The simplest entry point for most people is a dividend-paying investment portfolio. Index funds that hold the 500 largest companies in the United States pay dividends quarterly, a share of the company's earnings distributed directly to shareholders. No management required, no phone calls, no tenants. The investment earns whether you check it or not. A portfolio of $250,000 invested in a broad market index fund generates roughly $6,000 to $10,000 per year in dividends at historical rates before any price appreciation. It is modest, but it is income that does not require you. Real estate rental income is the version most people visualize, and it works, but it requires capital, local knowledge, and ongoing management that makes it genuinely active, not passive, especially at the beginning. The mathematical principle is the same. The rent paid by tenants exceeds the mortgage, taxes, insurance, and maintenance costs. The property generates net cash flow. Business ownership, a company that operates with its own systems and employees, not one that requires the owner's daily presence, is the third major category. At the extreme end of this is what the wealthiest families in America have understood for generations. At sufficient net worth, you do not even need the assets to pay income. You borrow against them. A person with $5 million in stock does not need to sell shares and pay capital gains tax. They borrow $200,000 from a bank using the stock as collateral at an interest rate of 1% to 2%. They live on the loan proceeds, which are not income and are not taxable. The stock continues growing. When they pass away, their heirs receive the appreciated assets at their new value, and the gains accumulated over decades are never taxed. That's crazy, right? This strategy, called buy, borrow, die by tax scholars, is legal, documented, and used at scale by the wealthiest families in America. It is not the lesson for someone building from scratch, but it is the purest illustration of what the cash flow versus net worth distinction looks like when taken to its logical conclusion. At the top of the wealth distribution, income from labor is essentially irrelevant. The asset system has fully replaced it. The tax code already tells you which direction to move. Earned income, wages, and salary is taxed at the highest marginal rates, up to 37% federally. Capital gains on long-term investments are taxed at a lower rate. Qualified dividends receive the capital gains rate. Depreciation from real estate can reduce taxable income further. The entire structure of the American tax system rewards people who derive income from assets over people who derive income from labor. This is not hidden. It is the architecture of the code. The more your income comes from assets you own rather than hours you work, the lower your effective tax rate, okay? Most people spend their lives in that high tax category, trading time for money, paying the highest possible rate. Building asset income is not just a wealth strategy. It is a tax strategy. The FIRE movement, financial independence, retire early, made this math accessible to ordinary people in a way it had never been before. Communities of people earning average incomes, teachers, nurses, engineers, government workers, discovered that by consistently investing a high percentage of their income in diversified stock index funds and tracking their progress against the 4% rule, financial independence in their 40s or even 30s was achievable. The math was not mysterious. The framework was simply never taught. Yeah, 25 states require high school students to take any personal finance course. The other 25 do not, and in the states that do require it, the courses mostly cover budgeting, basic banking, and credit scores. The distinction between labor income and asset income, the most important concept in building financial freedom, is taught almost nowhere. The result is that people leave school with 12 or 16 or 20 years of education, and almost none of it has prepared them to understand the difference between the money they earn and the money their assets earn. Okay? They learn to optimize for income. They get good at earning. They spend what they earn. Their net worth accumulates slowly, mostly in locked containers, the house, the 401k. The monthly cash flow stays near zero. The system runs on their labor, and their labor runs on the system, and nothing changes until the moment something interrupts it. The job disappears. The health fails. The industry shifts, and the person discovers that everything they built was denominated in a currency that required their presence to stay valid. The framework is not complicated. It never was. Net worth is the scoreboard. It tells you how large your system is. Cash flow from assets is the score. It tells you whether the system is actually working. Build the system. Let the system earn. The day the system earns more than your life costs is the day you stop being financially dependent on anyone else. That is not a fantasy. It is math. Slow math sometimes. Unglamorous math usually. But math that works. If this shifted how you think about your own finances, this channel has more of it. The history of how money was built, broken, and rebuilt, and what the people who understood it did differently. Stick around.